Hello there, and welcome back to Bedtime Science. I'm really glad you're here tonight. Dreams are not a decorative side effect of sleep. They are one of the strangest active states the human brain can enter. A private world built without light entering the eyes, without sound entering the ears, without the body moving through space, and yet often with enough force to make fear, grief, desire, memory, and wonder feel completely real. The science of dreams begins with a simple fact that is still difficult to accept. When the outside world goes quiet, the brain does not simply switch off. It starts generating a world of its own. That world has rules, but they are not the rules of waking life. Time can bend. Places can merge. The dead can return. A familiar room can become a city. A childhood fear can appear wearing the face of something ordinary. The dreaming mind can create faces, voices, landscapes, danger, comfort, and entire stories from fragments of memory and emotion. And when the dream is happening, most of the time we believe it. So this is not a mystical tour and not a list of cute dream meanings. It is a scientific look at dreaming as a brain state. How dreams are produced, why they feel real, what they may be doing for memory and emotion, why nightmares repeat, why lucid dreams are possible, why sleep paralysis feels so terrifying, and why this nightly private theater remains one of the most difficult problems in neuroscience. Dreams occur during sleep, but not only during the sleep stage most associated with them. The most vivid, narrative, emotionally rich dreams, the ones most people mean when they talk about dreaming, occur during REM sleep, which stands for rapid eye movement sleep, named for the characteristic rapid movements of the eyes that occur during this stage. But dreams also occur during non-REM sleep, including during slow-wave sleep, though these tend to be less vivid, less narrative, more thought-like, and less emotionally charged than our EM dreams. When people are awakened from non-REM sleep and asked what was happening in their minds, they frequently report fragmentary mental content, images, thoughts, sensations, that does not have the story-like quality of a full dream, but is clearly more than simple absence of mental activity. The mind is almost never fully dark during sleep. REM sleep was discovered in 1953 by graduate student Eugene Aserinsky and his advisor Nathaniel Kleitman at the University of Chicago. Aserinsky noticed that the eyes of sleeping subjects moved rapidly beneath closed eyelids in periodic bursts, and Kleitman suggested connecting subjects to an electroencephalograph to record brain activity during these episodes. What they found was that during REM, the brain showed a pattern of electrical activity that looked remarkably like the pattern of waking activity, high-frequency, low-amplitude waves, rather than the slow, large waves characteristic of deep sleep. When subjects were awakened from REM sleep, they reported vivid dreams in approximately 80% of cases. The discovery of REM sleep transformed the scientific study of dreaming by providing an objective physiological marker for the dreaming state and a reliable method for studying it in the laboratory. Before REM sleep was identified, dreams were scientifically slippery. A researcher could ask someone what they dreamed, but could not easily know when the dream occurred, what the brain was doing at the time, or whether the report was distorted by minutes or hours of forgetting. REM changed that. It gave dream research a door into the sleeping brain. A sleeper could be monitored, awakened at a precise stage, and asked immediately what had been happening in the mind. The result was a new kind of dream science. Not symbolic decoding, not folklore, not guessing from morning memories, but sleep staged by electrical brain activity, eye movements, muscle tone, breathing, heart rate, and timing. This also revealed that dreaming is not one single thing. A dream reported from late night REM sleep may be vivid, cinematic, emotional, and strange. A dream reported from deep non-REM sleep may be more like a thought, a pressure, a memory fragment, or a simple scene. A dream reported during the first minutes of sleep may be an image or a phrase rather than a story. The word dream covers a family of experiences produced by different brain states, and this is one reason the science is so difficult. Asking what dreams are for may be like asking what waking thought is for. There may not be one answer. There may be several, layered across different stages of sleep. The sleep cycle in humans repeats approximately every 90 minutes throughout the night. Each cycle consists of several stages of non-REM sleep of increasing depth, from light stage 1 sleep through progressively deeper stages 2 and 3, followed by a period of REM sleep. In the early cycles of the night, REM periods are brief, lasting only a few minutes. As the night progresses, the slow-wave sleep component of each cycle shortens, and the REM component lengthens, so that by the end of a full night's sleep, REM periods may last 45 to 60 minutes. The total amount of REM sleep in a full night is approximately 90 to 120 minutes for most adults. This timing matters because many people accidentally cut away the most dream-rich part of their night. A person who sleeps from midnight to 6 may feel that they lost only 2 hours compared to an 8-hour night. But those lost hours are not evenly distributed. They often contain the longest REM periods, the most elaborate dreams, and a large share of the emotional and associative processing that late-night sleep provides. This is one reason chronic short sleep can make waking life feel flatter, more reactive, and less emotionally flexible. The brain is not only missing rest. It is missing the specific late-night state in which memories, emotions, and imagined possibilities are recombined. Dream recall also follows this pattern. A person awakened from the final REM period of the morning is much more likely to remember a long, detailed dream than a person awakened early in the night from deep sleep. This does not necessarily mean that the morning dream was the only dream. It means it was caught close to the surface, before waking thought, light, movement, phone notifications, and daily tasks erased the fragile trace. Dream memory is unusually delicate. It is like writing on fogged glass, clear for a moment, then gone. The fact that our REM sleep accumulates predominantly in the second half of the night means that people who wake early consistently, or who sleep only a few hours, lose a disproportionate amount of REM sleep, and with it, a disproportionate amount of dreaming. The brain during REM sleep is in a paradoxical state, which is why REM sleep is sometimes called paradoxical sleep. The cerebral cortex is highly active, showing patterns of neural firing broadly similar to waking. The limbic system, the emotional brain, is particularly active during REM, with the amygdala showing elevated activity. The visual cortex is activated even in the complete absence of visual input from the eyes. The prefrontal cortex, which is associated with rational thought, planning, and reality monitoring, is relatively deactivated compared to its waking state. This pattern of activation, emotional and sensory systems highly active, reality testing and executive control reduced, is consistent with the phenomenology of dreams, vivid and emotionally rich, accepting bizarre content without questioning it, generating scenarios that seem completely real in the moment regardless of how strange they are by waking standards. That combination explains one of the most familiar features of dreaming. The dreamer often accepts impossibility without resistance. In a dream, a person can be in their childhood home and also in an airport. A stranger can be known with certainty to be an old friend. A door can open into a different country. The logic does not collapse because the part of the brain that normally checks consistency, context, and probability is less active. The dream is not trying to pass a waking reality test. It is trying to maintain a convincing experience from the inside. This is why dreams can feel emotionally true even when they are factually absurd. The content may be impossible, but the feeling is real. A dream of missing a train may not be about a train. It may be the brain generating a state of urgency, loss, or being too late, and building whatever scene can carry that emotion. A dream of being back in school decades after graduation may not be about school. It may be about evaluation, uncertainty, or the fear of not being ready. The dreaming brain often seems less interested in literal accuracy than in emotional simulation. The body is paralyzed during REM sleep. The brainstem sends inhibitory signals to the motor neurons of the spinal cord during REM, producing a state called REM atonia, in which all voluntary muscles, except the eye muscles and the diaphragm, are temporarily paralyzed. This paralysis is the biological mechanism that prevents people from physically acting out their dreams. The eyes move because the oculomotor muscles are exempt from the REM atonia signal, and their movements are thought to correspond in some way to eye movements the dreamer would be making if the dream were real. NREM sleep behavior disorder, a neurological condition in which the REM atonia mechanism is impaired. People do act out their dreams, sometimes violently, punching, kicking, and speaking in response to dream content. This disorder occurs more commonly in older adults and is associated with certain neurological conditions, and it provided early evidence for the REM atonia mechanism by demonstrating what happens when it fails. The typical dream is more emotionally negative than positively toned. Multiple large-scale analyses of dream content, using the method of having sleepers record their dreams immediately after waking, then analyzing the content systematically, have found that negative emotions appear more frequently than positive emotions in dreams. Fear, anxiety, frustration, and sadness are common dream emotions. Aggression, being the target of aggression or engaging in it, appears in a significant proportion of dreams. Positive emotions are also present, and friendly interactions are the most common form of social interaction in dreams, but the overall emotional tone skews negative relative to waking life. This consistent finding has generated theoretical interest in the possible adaptive function of dreaming for processing threatening experiences and emotions. The threat simulation theory of dreaming, proposed by Finnish neuroscientist Antti Rauvansio, suggests that the function of dreaming, or at least a primary function, is to simulate threatening events and rehearse responses to them. The strength of this theory is that it takes seriously the uncomfortable fact that many dreams are not peaceful. If dreaming were designed only to rest the mind, the amount of fear, conflict, pursuit, loss, and danger in dreams would be strange. But if dreams are simulations, the negativity begins to make more sense. The sleeping brain may be using safe offline time to run situations that matter: escape, confrontation, social rejection, failure, confusion, exposure, abandonment, and threat. In the dream, the body is protected by paralysis and by the bedroom around it. The brain can test emotions without requiring the external world to participate. The weakness of the theory is that dreams do more than simulate danger. They also revisit friendships, create impossible landscapes, mix memories, generate music, solve problems, and produce strange moments of beauty that do not look like rehearsal for survival. The most reasonable view may be that threat simulation is one major function of some dreams, not the whole function of dreaming. The dreaming system may be broad, sometimes defensive, sometimes creative, sometimes social, sometimes emotional, sometimes simply exploratory. According to this theory, the dreaming brain is essentially running threat rehearsal simulations, presenting the organism with scenarios involving danger, aggression, pursuit, and other threatening situations, which allow the development and refinement of the perceptual and behavioral responses to threat. The theory predicts that dreams should be biased toward threatening content, that the threats should be similar in type to those faced by ancestral humans, and that the responses practiced in dreams should be functional rather than random, that dreamers should run from predators, fight attackers, and attempt to escape from dangerous situations rather than simply observing them passively. The available data on dream content is broadly consistent with these predictions, though the theory remains debated. The NEXTUP model, Network Exploration to Understand Possibilities, proposed by Robert Stickgold and Matthew Walker, suggests that dreams serve a memory function specifically related to the discovery and exploration of weak associations between distantly related concepts and memories. According to this model, the dreaming brain does not simply replay waking experiences, but actively explores the network of associations between memories, extending outward from recent experiences to related but more distant memories, and in doing so generates the unexpected juxtapositions and creative combinations that characterize many dreams. The reduction of prefrontal cortex activity during REM sleep, on this account, is not a failure of function but a feature. It allows the associative network to explore widely without being constrained by the reality testing and relevance filtering that prefrontal regions impose during waking. Dreams, on this view, are creative hypothesis generation, the brain trying out unexpected combinations to find potentially useful connections. Memory consolidation during sleep, and REM sleep in particular, is one of the most experimentally robust findings in sleep science. Numerous studies have found that people who learn new information or a new skill and then sleep show better retention and better performance when tested subsequently, compared to people who stay awake for the same period after learning. The improvement in memory that occurs during sleep is not simply the result of avoiding the interference of new learning. It reflects active processing and consolidation of memories during sleep. The specific type of memory consolidated appears to depend on sleep stage. Procedural memories, motor skills, and implicit learning are preferentially consolidated during slow-wave sleep and slow-wave rich sleep overall. Declarative memories, facts and episodes, involve REM sleep as well as slow-wave sleep. Emotional memories appear to be specifically processed during REM sleep in ways that reduce the emotional charge associated with the memory while preserving the factual content. The emotional memory theory of REM sleep, developed by Matthew Walker and colleagues, proposes that REM sleep provides a unique neurochemical environment, specifically a reduction in the stress neurochemical norepinephrine, that allows the brain to reprocess emotionally charged memories in a less arousing context, effectively extracting the informational content of the experience from its emotional tone. This idea emerged from observations that the sleeping brain replays emotional memories during REM sleep, and that the norepinephrine system, which is active during stress and fear responses, is the only major neuromodulatory system that is completely shut down during REM sleep. The resulting low norepinephrine, high acetylcholine chemistry of REM sleep creates conditions in which memories can be reactivated and reprocessed without triggering the full stress response they originally provoked. Walker has described REM sleep as overnight therapy, and the theory is supported by evidence that people with PTSD who show disrupted REM sleep with abnormally elevated norepinephrine often fail to recover from the emotional intensity of traumatic memories in the way that normal sleepers do. The role of sleep and dreaming in creative problem-solving has been documented through both anecdote and experiment. Dmitry Mendeleev reported seeing the structure of the periodic table in a dream. August Kekulé described discovering the ring structure of benzene after dreaming of a snake biting its own tail. Paul McCartney reported that the melody for Yesterday came to him in a dream. These anecdotal reports are consistent with experimental findings, Subjects given problems requiring insight solutions, problems that cannot be solved by systematic analysis and require a sudden reorganization of thinking, show better performance after sleep, particularly after sleep-rich in REM. Walker and colleagues found that subjects were nearly 3 times more likely to find an elegant shortcut solution to a math problem if they had slept between the learning phase and the test phase. The unusual associative thinking characteristic of REM dreaming, the loosening of conceptual constraints, the unexpected juxtapositions of apparently unrelated ideas, appears to function as a generator of creative insights. This creative quality is not magic. It is what happens when the brain temporarily reduces some of the filters that make waking thought practical. During the day, the mind has to be efficient. It must ignore most associations because too many possibilities would make ordinary action impossible. You cannot stop at every memory, every metaphor, every emotional echo. But in REM sleep, with external demands suspended and executive filtering reduced, distant associations become more available. The brain can place a recent conversation beside a childhood image, a scientific problem beside a bodily sensation, a fear beside a joke, a melody beside a memory of a room. Most of these combinations are useless. A few may be interesting. A very small number may be brilliant. This may explain why dream-inspired ideas often arrive as images rather than arguments. Dreams do not usually produce finished reasoning. They produce compressed scenes, a snake biting its tail, a table appearing in perfect order, a melody without words, a story seed that feels emotionally complete before it is logically developed. Waking work still has to test, refine, and sometimes discard the material. But dreaming can loosen the mind from its habitual routes long enough for something unexpected to appear. Sleep deprivation and selective REM deprivation both impair emotional functioning. After one night of sleep deprivation, the emotional reactivity of the brain, measured by amygdala response to negative stimuli, is approximately 60% greater than after normal sleep. The connection between the prefrontal cortex and the amygdala, which normally allows the prefrontal cortex to regulate and modulate emotional responses, is weakened after sleep deprivation. People who are sleep-deprived show greater emotional volatility, reduced empathy, reduced ability to accurately read others' emotional expressions, and a negativity bias in emotional interpretation. They are more likely to interpret ambiguous social signals as threatening or hostile. All of these effects are partly reversed by recovery sleep, and many are particularly sensitive to REM sleep content, suggesting that the emotional processing that occurs during REM dreaming is functionally important for the regulation of emotional responses in waking life. Lucid dreaming is a state in which the dreamer becomes aware that they are dreaming while the dream continues. Lucid dreaming is fascinating because it shows that dreaming and waking awareness are not absolute opposites. They can overlap. In an ordinary dream, the dreamer is immersed and believes the world. In waking life, the person knows they are awake and can reflect on their own mental state. In a lucid dream, the brain combines parts of both, the sensory richness and generated environment of dreaming, with a degree of self-awareness usually associated with waking consciousness. The result is not simply a vivid dream. It is a dream in which the mind recognizes its own construction while standing inside it. This makes lucid dreaming valuable scientifically. It gives researchers a rare way to communicate with a sleeping subject while the dream is still happening. The prearranged eye movement signals used by lucid dreamers are like messages from inside a private world. They show that the dreamer can understand instructions, remember an agreed task, and voluntarily act within the dream while the body remains asleep. For consciousness research, this is extraordinary. It means a person can be asleep by every standard physiological measure and still possess a pocket of reflective awareness. The term was coined by Dutch psychiatrist and writer Frederik van Eeden in 1913, though the phenomenon had been described much earlier. Aristotle wrote about the awareness of dreaming in his work on dreams, and Tibetan Buddhist dream yoga practices describe deliberate lucid dreaming as a spiritual discipline. Lucid dreaming is not simply knowing you are asleep. It involves a phenomenologically distinctive state in which the dreamer has access to waking-like self-reflection, memory, and intentional control within the dream environment. The vividness of sensory experience in a lucid dream is typically described as equal to or exceeding that of waking experience. The neurological reality of lucid dreaming was confirmed in a landmark 1975 study by Keith Hearn, and subsequently in the well-known 1980 work of Stephen LaBerge at Stanford University. LaBerge trained lucid dreamers to signal their lucid state from within a dream using prearranged eye movement sequences, because the eye muscles are exempt from REM autonia and their movements appear in polysomnographic recordings. Subjects could demonstrate that they had achieved lucidity within a dream by executing specific left-right eye movement patterns, signals that were recorded on the polysomnograph, while the subject was verified to be in REM sleep. This methodology proved that lucid dreaming was a genuine physiological state rather than a report of a waking or hypnagogic experience, and it opened the door to systematic research on the content and neural correlates of lucid dreaming. The neural signature of lucid dreaming has been characterized by neuroimaging studies as a hybrid state. It shares the high-frequency, low-amplitude neural oscillations of our REM sleep and posterior brain regions, but shows increased gamma band activity, high-frequency oscillations associated with conscious awareness and self-reflection, in the frontoparietal cortex, the region associated with metacognition and self-awareness. This pattern is consistent with lucid dreaming being a state in which the metacognitive awareness associated with waking consciousness is superimposed on the broader neural background of our REM sleep. Studies using transcranial alternating current stimulation, applying gentle electrical oscillations to the scalp, have found that stimulating the frontoparietal cortex at gamma frequencies during our REM sleep can induce lucid dreaming in some subjects, providing direct causal evidence for the role of frontal gamma activity in the transition to lucidity. Techniques for inducing lucid dreaming have been studied systematically, and several approaches have shown effectiveness in controlled research. Reality testing, the practice of regularly questioning during waking hours whether one is dreaming, using tests such as checking whether text changes when reread or whether timepieces function normally, increases the probability of performing the same test in a dream and recognizing the inconsistencies that indicate a dream state. The MILD technique, mnemonic induction of lucid dreams, developed by LaBerge, involves forming a strong intention to recognize the dream state when it next occurs, combined with repeated mental rehearsal of the moment of recognizing lucidity. Wake back to bed, setting an alarm to wake approximately 6 hours after sleep onset, staying awake briefly, then returning to sleep. Exploits the increased REM pressure in the later sleep cycles to increase the probability of entering REM sleep quickly and with sufficient frontal activation to achieve lucidity. The content of lucid dreams, once lucidity is achieved, is strongly influenced by the dreamer's intentions and expectations. The limits of lucid control are just as interesting as the control itself. Many beginners expect that once they know they are dreaming, the dream should obey them completely. But the dream often behaves more like a living simulation than a blank screen. A person may decide to fly and succeed, but the sky may change without permission. They may summon a person, but the person may say something unexpected. They may try to pass through a wall and suddenly remember, with dreamlike certainty, that walls cannot be crossed. The dreamer is partly author and partly audience. This suggests that dream content is generated by systems below conscious control. Lucidity gives the dreamer access to some steering mechanisms, attention, intention, expectation, but not to the whole machinery. The deeper generators of dream imagery, emotion, and narrative continue operating. This is one reason lucid dreams can feel so compelling. They are not simply fantasies under total command. They are encounters with the brain's autonomous world-making process. Experienced lucid dreamers report the ability to direct the course of the dream, to fly, to summon specific people or environments, to conduct experiments on the dream content, to face feared situations voluntarily. The malleability of the dream environment in a lucid dream suggests that the dreaming brain maintains a generative model of the environment that can be modified by directed attention and expectation in ways that are not normally accessible. Importantly, even experienced lucid dreamers report that the dream environment has a quality of independent agency. Characters in the dream behave in ways that feel uncontrolled. The environment sometimes changes in unexpected directions, and the effort to maintain lucidity and control can coexist with the sense that the dream is generating content autonomously. The dreaming mind is not fully transparent even to itself. Recurring dreams, dreams with the same or very similar content that occur repeatedly over weeks, months, or years, are extremely common. Large-scale surveys have found that between 60 and 75% of adults report having had recurring dreams. The most common categories of recurring dream content include being chased or attacked, falling, flying, failing an examination or being unprepared for a test, having teeth fall out, being naked in a public place, and being unable to perform a desired action despite effort. These themes are remarkably consistent across cultures and demographics, appearing in surveys conducted in North America, Europe, Asia, and elsewhere with broadly similar frequencies. The cross-cultural consistency of recurring dream content suggests that these themes tap into psychological concerns, anxiety, social shame, loss of control that are universal to the human experience, and that the dreaming brain gravitates toward these themes because of their emotional significance. The examination dream, dreaming that you are taking an important examination for which you are unprepared, or one that you failed, or one in a subject you do not recognize, is one of the most common recurring dream themes, and it does not diminish with age. Surveys have found that adults decades past their student years still regularly dream about failing exams, even when their waking lives involve no examinations of any kind. The examination dream appears to be triggered not by the specific context of examinations, but by the emotional state of anticipatory anxiety, the concern about performance evaluation, and the fear of being found inadequate, which the dreaming brain maps onto the learned template of examination anxiety. The dream is, in this sense, using a familiar emotional script to process a very general category of anxiety that is not specific to academic performance. The teeth falling out dream is cross-culturally one of the most common and most distressing recurring dream themes. The power of this dream comes from how physical it feels. Many people wake from it with their tongue checking their actual teeth, as if the dream has left a trace in the mouth. This is a reminder that dream images are not only visual. They can be tactile, kinesthetic, bodily. The dreaming brain can generate the feeling of loose teeth, pressure in the jaw, a hand full of fragments, or the panic of being unable to speak normally. In waking life, teeth are associated with eating, speech, appearance, age, health, and social presentation. Losing them in a dream can carry many meanings at once without requiring a single fixed symbol. A modern scientific approach does not need to choose between body and meaning. The dream may begin with a small physical sensation, jaw tension, tooth pressure, grinding, dryness in the mouth, and then build an emotionally charged scene around it. The body provides a seed. The brain provides a story. This interaction between bodily input and emotional interpretation may be one of the general mechanisms behind many common dreams. It typically involves teeth crumbling, falling out, becoming loose, or being pulled out, and is almost universally reported as unpleasant or frightening by dreamers. Interpretations have varied widely. Psychoanalytic interpretations linked it to anxiety about appearance, sexual concerns, and castration anxiety. More recent interpretations have focused on dental irritation during sleep, anxiety about social embarrassment and self-presentation, and powerlessness. Research by Rosen and Soffer-Dudek found that dreamers who reported the teeth falling out dream were more likely to be experiencing dental irritation or tooth discomfort in waking life, suggesting that sensory input from the body during sleep may contribute to triggering this dream theme. The emotional valence, loss, powerlessness, concern about appearance may contribute regardless of the triggering mechanism. Flying dreams are among the most consistently positive of the common recurring dream types. Dreamers describe the sensation of flight in vivid physical detail, the feeling of lift, the experience of moving through air, the freedom of unrestricted three-dimensional movement. The emotional tone is typically described as exhilarating, liberating, or peaceful. Flying dreams are reported across cultures and ages, and their phenomenological richness and positive quality have made them one of the dream types most frequently targeted by lucid dreamers seeking to experience a specific dream content. The neural basis of the physical sensation of flight in a dream, the vestibular and proprioceptive components of the experience, generated entirely internally by the dreaming brain, is an interesting neuroscientific question that has not been fully characterized. Dream incorporation, the process by which sensory stimuli from the external environment are woven into dream content, has been studied extensively in sleep laboratory settings. Sounds played to sleeping subjects are frequently incorporated into ongoing dreams, typically transformed in a way consistent with the dream narrative rather than appearing as an external intrusion. The smell of roses or the smell of rotten eggs introduced through a face mask during REM sleep affects the emotional tone of dreams. Positive smells produce more positively toned dreams. Negative smells produce more negatively toned ones, even though dreamers rarely explicitly dream about the smell itself. Physical stimuli, including water misting the face, vibration applied to limbs, and pressure on the skin are also incorporated into dream content. The permeability of the dream to external stimuli is partial and unpredictable. The dreaming brain filters and transforms external input rather than simply representing it. This is why alarms sometimes become part of dreams before they wake the sleeper. A ringing phone may become a school bell, a fire alarm, a distant siren, or a machine in a strange building. A voice in the room may become dialogue from a dream character. Pressure from a blanket may become the sensation of being trapped or held. The dream is not cut off from the world. It is selectively insulated. External signals can cross the boundary, but they arrive as raw material for the dream rather than as plain information. The same is true of signals from inside the body. Hunger, thirst, temperature, pain, bladder pressure, heart rate changes, and breathing sensations can all be woven into dream content. A person who is too warm may dream of deserts, crowded rooms, or feverish situations. A person who is cold may dream of snow, water, or being outside. A person with a racing heart may dream of danger and then wake believing the dream caused the heartbeat, when sometimes the body state may have helped generate the dream. Dreaming is a negotiation between memory, emotion, and physiology. The psychological mechanism by which external stimuli are transformed into dream content is not fully understood, but it appears to involve a process in which the dreaming brain attempts to explain or contextualize sensory input within the ongoing dream narrative. A cold draft on the skin might become a moment of exposure in a strange outdoor environment. A sound might become the voice of a dream character or the sound of an event in the dream story. This narrative integration of sensory input is consistent with the hypothesis that the dreaming brain is continuously generating a predictive model of reality, and that sensory input, even from the external world, is incorporated into this model rather than experienced as external to it. The dream is not simply a passive reception of neural noise. It is an active construction that attempts to make coherent sense of all available signals. Hypnagogia, the transitional state between wakefulness and sleep, is associated with hallucinations that are vivid and often startling, but different in character from full REM dreams. Hypnagogic hallucinations typically involve visual imagery, flashing lights, geometric patterns, faces, landscapes, that appears to the observer as genuinely real but fades or transforms rapidly. Auditory hypnagogia is also common. People report hearing their name called, fragments of conversation, or music that is not playing. Hypnagogic imagery is not typically narrative. It does not have the story structure of a dream, and it is often accompanied by an awareness of the transition state and the ability to observe the imagery with a degree of detachment not available during full REM dreaming. Hypnagogic imagery is thought to reflect the gradual disengagement of the default mode network from its tethering to external reality as sleep onset progresses, allowing internally generated imagery to emerge into awareness. Hypnopompia, the transitional state between sleep and waking, can also produce hallucinatory experiences, sometimes including the visual or auditory perception of figures, presences, or voices. Hypnopompic hallucinations are typically more vivid and more frightening than hypnagogic ones, and they are more commonly associated with a sense of threat or danger. The most dramatic form of hypnopompic experience is sleep paralysis, a state in which the person awakens to consciousness while the REM atonia of the body persists, producing an inability to move or speak combined, in many cases, with vivid hallucinatory experiences and an intense sense of a threatening presence in the room. Sleep paralysis affects approximately 20 to 40% of people at least once in their lifetime and is not medically dangerous, though the experience is deeply frightening. The cross-cultural consistency of the experience, including the sensation of a weight on the chest, the sense of being observed or threatened, and the inability to move, has been proposed as one of the underlying experiences generating historical accounts of incubi, succubi, demons, ghosts, and alien abductions across different cultures. Sleep paralysis is one of the clearest examples of how a biological event can become a cultural story. The physiology is the same. REM paralysis persists for a few seconds or minutes after consciousness returns, but the interpretation depends on the culture. A person in one tradition may experience a demon. Another may experience a ghost. Another may experience an intruder, an alien presence, a witch, a spirit, or simply an unnamed force. The brain is awake enough to seek an explanation and still dreamlike enough to generate a presence. In that gap, biology becomes mythology. The terror of sleep paralysis is intensified by the fact that the body cannot perform the most basic fear responses. It cannot run. It cannot shout. It cannot even turn the head. The motor system is locked while the threat system is active. This produces a perfect neurological trap: fear without movement, awareness without control, perception without verification. Understanding the mechanism does not always make the experience pleasant, but it can reduce the fear after the fact. The event is not a supernatural attack. It is the REM system failing to disengage in perfect synchrony with waking consciousness. Sleep paralysis has been documented across cultures with remarkably consistent phenomenological features. In Newfoundland, it is called the old hag, a witch who sits on the chest of the sleeper. In Chinese culture, it is called ghost pressing on body. In Turkish culture, it is the karabasan, a dark oppressor. In Japanese culture, it is kanashibari, bound in metal. In Hmong culture, it is the nightmare spirit, dabbed sog. In West African and Caribbean cultures, it is associated with a spirit pressing on the sleeper. The universality of these accounts, the heavy presence, the chest pressure, the inability to move, the sense of malevolent intent, strongly suggests they all reflect the same underlying physiological state, the hypnopompic state of incomplete emergence from REM sleep, with the characteristic paralysis, partially conscious awareness, and the perceptual distortions associated with the still active dreaming brain generating threatening presences from ambiguous internal signals. The relationship between dreaming and waking emotional processing has been explored through studies examining how the content of a person's dreams relates to their waking emotional concerns and how dreaming affects emotional responses to those concerns. Research has found that people tend to dream about the things that are emotionally important to them, their relationships, their concerns, their recent emotionally significant experiences, more than they dream about mundane or emotionally neutral content. This selectivity of dream content for emotionally significant material is consistent with the hypothesis that dreaming plays a role in processing and integrating emotionally charged experiences. Studies that have followed emotional reactivity to distressing stimuli across a night of sleep have found that our EM-rich nights are associated with greater reduction in emotional reactivity than our EM-poor nights, supporting the idea that our EM sleep specifically contributes to the processing of emotional content. The Freudian theory of dreaming, that dreams are the royal road to the unconscious, encoding repressed wishes and desires in disguised symbolic form, was the dominant psychological account of dreaming for much of the 20th century. Freud proposed that the manifest content of a dream, the actual narrative and imagery, disguised the latent content, the underlying unconscious wish, through mechanisms of condensation, displacement, and symbolism. This view drove enormous cultural interest in dream interpretation and influenced psychoanalytic practice profoundly. The scientific status of the Freudian dream theory is now generally regarded as poor. The mechanisms Freud proposed are not supported by the neuroscience of dreaming. The evidence that dream symbolism operates in the systematic way Freud proposed is weak, and the more productive neuroscientific models of dreaming have developed without reference to the unconscious wish hypothesis. However, the broader insight that dreaming is not meaningless, that it connects to the dreamer's emotional concerns and psychological state, is supported by contemporary research in a way that Freud's specific mechanisms are not. The activation synthesis hypothesis, proposed by J. Allen Hobson and Robert McCarley in 1977, offered the first major neurobiological account of dreaming to challenge the psychoanalytic model. According to activation synthesis, dreams are the brain's attempt to make sense of the random neural activity generated by the brainstem during our EM sleep. The brainstem periodically generates bursts of neural activity, PGO waves, pontogeniculo-occipital waves, that activate the cortex in a somewhat random pattern. The cortex, encountering this random activation, attempts to construct a coherent narrative from it, drawing on memories and emotional associations to generate the dream story. The narrative quality of dreams, on this account, is an artifact of the narrative-generating tendencies of the cortex, not a reflection of any underlying symbolic meaning. The theory was influential in directing attention toward the neuroscience of dreaming, but is now regarded as an oversimplification. The content of dreams is not random and shows systematic relationships to the dreamer's concerns, memories, and emotional state that cannot be explained by random brainstem activation alone. The continuity hypothesis of dreaming proposes that dream content reflects the dreamer's waking concerns, preoccupations, and emotional life, that dreams are continuous with, rather than discontinuous from, the psychological content of waking. This hypothesis is powerful because it matches ordinary experience. People do not dream randomly across all possible topics. They dream disproportionately about what has emotional charge, a person they miss, a conflict that is unresolved, a task they are avoiding, a place from childhood, a fear that keeps returning, a new relationship, a recent humiliation, a responsibility, a desire, a loss. Dreams are often strange in form, but familiar in emotional material. The scene may be impossible, but the concern is recognizable. This also explains why dreams change during major life transitions. Students dream about exams. New parents dream about losing the baby or failing to protect it. People moving to a new country may dream about airports, lost documents, strange streets, or being unable to communicate. People grieving may dream about the dead. People under pressure may dream of being late, unprepared, watched, judged, chased, or unable to complete a simple action. The dreaming brain appears to return again and again to whatever the waking mind cannot fully metabolize. On this view, people dream about the things that matter to them in waking life, and the process of dreaming allows this content to be processed, rehearsed, and integrated rather than simply replicated. Evidence for the continuity hypothesis comes from studies finding that daily life events and emotional concerns predict dream content, that traumatically experienced events appear in the dreams of trauma survivors, and that people who are experiencing major life transitions dream about concerns related to those transitions. The discontinuity that is evident in many dreams, the bizarre transformations, the impossible settings, the unexpected associations, is interpreted on this view as the creative and exploratory processing of waking content rather than as evidence of fundamentally different psychological material. The offline replay of memories during sleep extends beyond simple repetition. Research using neuroimaging has found that memories acquired during waking are replayed during subsequent sleep, but the replay involves not just the original memory traces, but also related memories and associated concepts. This extended replay, sometimes called memory reactivation and its associations, appears to facilitate the integration of new memories into existing knowledge structures. The hippocampus, which is critical for the initial encoding of declarative memories, shows coordinated replay with the neocortex during slow-wave sleep, in a pattern thought to reflect the gradual transfer of memories from hippocampal storage to distributed neocortical storage. REM sleep adds a subsequent phase of processing in which these memories are further integrated and their emotional associations are processed. The two-stage consolidation, slow-wave sleep followed by REM sleep, is thought to produce lasting, well-integrated memories that are both accurately retained and appropriately contextualized. The targeted memory reactivation paradigm demonstrates that specific memories can be selectively consolidated during sleep by presenting sensory cues associated with those memories during slow-wave sleep. In a typical experiment, subjects learn to associate objects with specific spatial locations on a grid, and each object is paired with a specific sound during learning. After subjects fall asleep, some of the sounds are played softly while the subjects are in slow-wave sleep. When tested the following day, subjects show better memory for the locations of objects whose associated sounds were played during sleep than for objects whose sounds were not played. The manipulation specifically requires slow-wave sleep. Playing sounds during waking or during REM sleep does not produce the same enhancement. This selective consolidation effect suggests that the sleeping brain can use sensory cues to prioritize which memories are strengthened and raises the possibility of therapeutic applications for enhancing specific types of learning. The deeper implication is that sleep is not a passive archive. It is an active editor. During sleep, the brain is not merely storing the day as if placing files in a cabinet. It is selecting, strengthening, weakening, linking, and sometimes transforming memories. Some details are preserved. Others are allowed to fade. Emotional tone can be reduced or intensified. New information can be connected to older knowledge. This is why sleep changes not only what we remember, but how we understand what happened. Dreams may be the subjective surface of this hidden editing process. The dream itself may not be the mechanism of memory consolidation, but it may be what memory processing feels like when it becomes conscious from the inside. A conversation from yesterday appears beside a house from childhood. A recent fear is placed into an old exam room. A person from one period of life speaks in the voice of someone from another. The dream may not be random nonsense. It may be the visible trace of memory networks being opened and recombined. Dream interpretation has been practiced across human cultures for millennia as a method of accessing hidden knowledge, divine guidance, and psychological truth. Ancient Mesopotamian civilizations recorded dreams on clay tablets and developed systems for interpreting their significance. In ancient Egypt, temples of incubation, structures designed for seeking divine dreams, were dedicated to the god Serapis, and dreamers would sleep within them hoping to receive healing or prophetic messages. Ancient Greece had a highly developed culture of dream interpretation, with the god Asclepius associated with healing dreams and dedicated temples, Asclepia, where the sick would sleep in hopes of receiving a dream that would reveal the cure for their ailment. The interpretation of dreams as divine messages is found in the Hebrew Bible, the New Testament, the Quran, and the religious texts of virtually every major world religion. The Talmud contains hundreds of references to dreams and extensive discussion of their interpretation. The anthropology of dreams reveals that the relationship between dreaming and waking life varies significantly across cultures, challenging the Western assumption that dreams are private, insignificant experiences that are clearly demarcated from reality. In many traditional cultures, dreams are social and public. They are shared, discussed, and acted upon. Among the Achua people of the Amazon, dream sharing between family members at dawn is a daily practice, and important dreams are acted upon immediately. A hunter who dreams of a specific animal will hunt that animal. A person who dreams of conflict will attempt to resolve it before it manifests in waking life. The Iroquois tradition holds that dreams reveal the desires of the soul and should be fulfilled in waking life to maintain psychological balance. Among the Caguahive of the Brazilian Amazon, dreams are considered a form of real experience. Traveling in dreams is real travel. Meeting others in dreams is a real meeting, with implications for social relationships in waking life. The neurochemistry of our REM sleep, the specific balance of neuromodulators present during dreaming, differs dramatically from waking neurochemistry and is thought to be directly responsible for the psychological characteristics of dreams. One way to understand dreaming is to imagine the brain running on a different chemical setting. Waking consciousness is stabilized by neurotransmitters that support alertness, orientation, deliberate attention, and response to the external world. Our REM consciousness is chemically different. It is internally activated but externally disconnected. It is emotional, associative, visual, and unstable. The result is not lower consciousness, but altered consciousness, intense in some dimensions, weak in others. This is why a dream can be brilliant and foolish at the same time. It can generate a powerful image, a meaningful emotional scene, or a creative solution, while also failing to notice contradictions that a waking mind would reject instantly. The dreaming brain is not simply broken. It is biased. It sacrifices consistency for association, skepticism for immersion, control for experience. That trade-off is what makes dreams feel so alive and so strange. During our REM sleep, acetylcholine levels are elevated and are the dominant neuromodulator. The monoamines, norepinephrine, serotonin, and histamine, are dramatically reduced compared to waking levels. Dopamine remains more active. This neurochemical profile produces specific cognitive effects, reduced logical and critical reasoning associated with low norepinephrine, enhanced creative and associative thinking associated with high acetylcholine, elevated emotional processing associated with the limbic activation that persists despite reduced prefrontal modulation, and reduced reality monitoring and metacognitive awareness associated with the combined effects of reduced prefrontal activity and altered monoamine tone. Understanding the neurochemistry of dreaming helps explain why dreams feel real, why their content is strange and emotionally vivid, and why we typically do not question the reality of the dream while in it. Medications and substances that alter monoaminergic or cholinergic neurotransmission can dramatically affect dream quality, frequency, and vividness. Selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, SSRIs, which increase serotonergic tone, suppress our REM sleep and reduce dream vividness and frequency in most users, and some report a complete absence of dreams. Cholinesterase inhibitors, which increase acetylcholine levels by blocking the enzyme that breaks it down, increase the intensity and vividness of dreams, and are associated with elevated rates of lucid dreaming. These substances are used in some protocols for inducing lucid dreaming precisely because of this effect. Alcohol suppresses our REM sleep in the first half of the night, leading to a rebound of intense REM sleep in the second half when the alcohol is metabolized, producing vivid and often disturbing dreams in the early morning hours. Cannabis similarly suppresses our REM sleep in acute users, and cannabis withdrawal produces REM rebound with intense vivid dreams that are frequently described as nightmares. The dream content of people with visual congenital blindness, blind from birth, does not include visual imagery, consistent with the general finding that visual dreaming requires the establishment of visual experience and visual cortex connectivity during development. People who become blind after early childhood retain visual imagery in their dreams for years or decades, though the frequency and vividness of visual dream elements tends to diminish over time after the onset of blindness. People blind from birth dream in the other senses. They have rich auditory, tactile, olfactory, and kinesthetic dream experiences, and their dreams are not considered impoverished by the dreamers themselves, simply different. This finding, that the sensory content of dreams is determined by the sensory architecture developed through experience rather than by some fixed modality, is consistent with the hypothesis that the dreaming brain generates experience through the activation of learned perceptual representations rather than through any intrinsic sensory bias. People who are deaf from birth and use sign language as their primary language sign in their dreams. Their dream communication occurs through sign, not through spoken language. People who become fluent in a second language dream in both their native language and the second language, with the balance shifting toward the second language as fluency increases, and some bilingual dreamers report the experience of dream characters switching between languages within the same dream. This is one of the more intimate ways that learning changes the dreaming mind. A new language is not fully integrated into the self, while it remains only a school exercise or a set of memorized rules. It begins to enter deeper cognitive life when it appears automatically, in inner speech, emotional reaction, spontaneous thought, and eventually in dreams. Dreaming in a second language does not mean perfect fluency. but it can indicate that the language has begun to participate in the brain's automatic simulation systems. The sleeping mind does not politely separate identities, memories, and languages into neat folders. It uses whatever has become psychologically active. For bilingual and multilingual people, dream language can also reflect emotional context. A childhood language may appear in dreams involving family, fear, shame, or early memory. A newer language may appear in dreams involving work, travel, ambition, or a present social environment. The language of a dream is not merely a tool for communication. It can be part of the emotional setting of the dream itself. People who work intensively with spatial problems, architects, engineers, surgeons, sometimes report dreams with rich spatial and three-dimensional content related to their waking work. Tetris players famously see falling blocks when they close their eyes after extended play sessions, a hypnagogic phenomenon that has also been documented in amnesiac patients who cannot consciously remember playing the game, suggesting that the hypnagogic replay of visual sequences can occur without episodic memory of the experience that generated them. Nightmares are distinguished from ordinary negative dreams by their intensity. They are sufficiently distressing to cause waking, and the dreamer experiences persistent emotional distress after waking. Approximately 5 to 8% of adults report recurring nightmares as a current problem. Nightmares are more common in people with anxiety disorders, depression, PTSD, and in people undergoing acute stress. They are extremely common in children. Most children experience significant nightmares between the ages of 3 and 6, when the narrative imagination is developing rapidly and fears are being processed. The content of adult nightmares most commonly involves physical threats, being chased, attacked, or injured, and interpersonal conflicts. The specific content of nightmares in PTSD is distinctive. PTSD nightmares frequently replay the traumatic event with great fidelity, rather than showing the transformations and displacements characteristic of ordinary dreaming, consistent with the idea that PTSD involves a failure of the normal REM sleep processing of emotionally charged memories. Imagery rehearsal therapy, a well-validated treatment for nightmare disorder, works by having the patient rewrite the nightmare during waking hours, changing any aspect of the story they choose, and then rehearsing the new version mentally while awake. Patients who practice this technique typically report significant reductions in nightmare frequency and distress within a few weeks. The mechanism of imagery rehearsal therapy is not fully understood, but it appears to involve reconsolidation, the process by which memories are made plastic when they are reactivated and can be modified before being reconsolidated into long-term storage. By actively engaging with the nightmare content while awake, modifying it, and rehearsing the modified version, the patient may be altering the memory trace of the original experience in a way that reduces its traumatic charge. The effectiveness of imagery rehearsal therapy for nightmare disorder is one of the more powerful demonstrations that conscious engagement with dream content in waking life can directly affect the dreaming experience. This matters because it shows that nightmares are not untouchable. A recurring nightmare can feel like a fixed internal punishment, something the brain insists on replaying without permission. But imagery rehearsal therapy suggests that the dream system can learn a new route. The waking person rewrites the ending, rehearses the new version, and gives the sleeping brain alternative material. Over time, the nightmare may weaken, transform, or disappear. The dream is not forced by interpretation, it is changed by practice. The same principle may apply more broadly. The brain often repeats what remains emotionally unresolved, but repetition does not always mean destiny. A repeated dream can be a sign that the nervous system has not yet found a workable model for a particular fear or memory. By approaching the dream deliberately while awake, not by asking what it means in some universal dictionary, but by asking what emotional pattern it is running. A person may change the conditions that keep the dream returning. Post-traumatic nightmares represent a distinct mechanism from ordinary nightmare disorder. In PTSD, the nightmares typically involve faithful or near-faithful replay of the traumatic event, an experience qualitatively different from the transformed and symbolically displaced content of ordinary distress dreams. This fidelity to the original experience is consistent with the hypothesis that the trauma has produced a memory that has not been successfully processed through the normal REM sleep mechanism. That the inability of the REM sleep emotional processing system to fully work through the traumatic memory results in its repeated, unmodified replay during dreaming. Prazosin, a medication that reduces norepinephrine activity, has been found to reduce the frequency and severity of PTSD nightmares, consistent with the theory that elevated norepinephrine during REM sleep in PTSD patients is one of the mechanisms disrupting normal emotional processing. The capacity for emotional learning from dreams, incorporating insights or emotional information generated during dreaming into waking behavior and emotional responses, has been demonstrated in several experimental paradigms. In one paradigm, subjects who dreamed about navigating a maze showed greater improvement in maze navigation performance than subjects who simply rested or rehearsed the maze while awake. Crucially, the subjects who dreamed about the maze showed the most improvement, more than subjects who did not report maze dreams but also rested. This suggests that the specific processing that occurs during dreaming, rather than simply the passage of time or the consolidation that occurs during any sleep, contributes to skill improvement. Other studies have found that people who dreamed about emotionally charged stimuli they had been shown showed different emotional responses to those stimuli when tested later, consistent with the idea that the dream had done something to the emotional memory beyond simple consolidation. The neuroscience of dream bizarreness, the quality that distinguishes dreams from waking thought, involving impossible events, sudden scene changes, transformations of people and objects, and violations of physical and logical laws, is not fully understood but is thought to be related to the reduced activity of the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex during REM sleep. The dorsolateral prefrontal cortex is involved in working memory, reality monitoring, and the maintenance of consistency in reasoning. It is the part of the brain that, in waking, would catch the logical inconsistencies and physical impossibilities of a typical dream and flag them as unrealistic. With its activity reduced during REM sleep, these checks are absent, and the narrative-generating systems of the dreaming brain are free to produce transitions and transformations that would immediately be recognized as impossible in waking. The dreamer accepts a room that simultaneously has a familiar layout and is in a completely different location because the system that would notice the inconsistency is not active. The timing of when in the night a dream occurs affects its content and quality. Early night dreams, occurring in the first REM period, tend to be shorter, more closely tied to recent waking experiences, the day residue effect, in which events and concerns from the preceding day appear in the first dreams of the night, and less emotionally intense. Later night dreams, occurring in the longer REM periods of the second half of the night, tend to be longer, more bizarre, more emotionally intense, more narrative, and more likely to incorporate material from the more distant past. The progression of dream content through the night, from the mundane and recent to the complex and emotionally charged, reflects the changing neurochemistry and the shifting balance of memory systems as the night progresses. People who know this pattern and wish to have more complex or memorable dreams deliberately time their sleep to maximize late-night REM periods. Animals dream. The evidence for this is now substantial. Brain recordings during sleep in mammals and birds show the same sequence of slow-wave sleep and our EM sleep seen in humans, with our EM sleep showing the characteristic muscle twitches, rapid eye movements, and cortical activation patterns that indicate active dreaming. In rats, Matthew Wilson and colleagues recorded the firing patterns of hippocampal neurons while the rats ran a maze, then recorded from the same neurons during subsequent sleep. During slow-wave sleep and REM sleep, the rats showed replay of neural firing sequences that corresponded to specific paths in the maze, sequences of neural activity that matched what would be observed if the rat were running a specific route. The replay was so precise that the researchers could identify which part of the maze the rat was replaying at any given moment during sleep. The rat was, in the most meaningful sense, dreaming of running the maze. This finding changed the way many scientists thought about animal dreaming. It was not merely that a sleeping animal twitched or made noises in a way that looked dreamlike. The neural code itself was replaying a waking experience. The hippocampus, a structure central to memory and spatial navigation, was reactivating patterns that corresponded to real movement through a real environment. The animal's sleeping brain was not idle. It was revisiting the map. Similar replay has been observed in other contexts, and it suggests that sleep is deeply involved in building internal models of the world. An animal does not simply experience a place once and store it whole. The brain replays paths, strengthens relationships, integrates landmarks, and improves prediction. Dreaming, or dreamlike activity, may be part of the process by which a nervous system converts experience into usable knowledge. To dream of a maze is not only to remember it, it may be to become better at moving through it. Dog dreams are of particular interest because dogs sleep in human households and their sleep behavior is directly observable. The muscle twitches, eye movements, paw paddling, vocalization, and occasional full body movements that dogs show during sleep, particularly in deeper sleep, when our EM autonia is less complete in dogs than in humans, are consistent with them replaying running, playing, and exploring sequences from their waking experience. Matthew Walker, discussing dog dreaming, observed that puppies dream more than adult dogs, consistent with the pattern in humans where infants spend far more time in our EM sleep than adults, and that this elevated REM sleep in young mammals is associated with the processing of the enormous amount of new experience being encoded during the critical developmental period. Younger brains have more to dream about. The total amount of time spent dreaming over a lifetime is substantial. If we estimate that a person sleeps approximately 8 hours per night, of which approximately 20 to 25% is our EM sleep, a person spends approximately 1.5 to 2 hours in our EM sleep per night. Over 80 years of life with average sleep patterns, this amounts to approximately 50,000 hours of REM sleep, more than 6 years of life spent dreaming. Most of this time is not recalled. On average, people remember fragments of only 1 or 2 dreams per night, despite having spent several hours in a state of vivid experience. The vast majority of a lifetime's dreaming evaporates on waking, leaving only occasional fragments and the rare vivid dream that persists in memory for days or weeks. The 6 years of inner experience are largely lost. This lost dream life is one of the strangest facts about human existence. Every person has lived through thousands of scenes they cannot remember. Conversations with people who never existed, impossible landscapes, dangers survived, reunions felt, arguments played out, rooms invented and forgotten, entire emotional episodes that vanished before breakfast. These experiences were real as experiences while they lasted. They affected the sleeping brain. They may even have shaped waking mood or memory, but most left no accessible record. The forgetting is not accidental. It may be part of how the system works. If every dream were remembered clearly, waking memory could become cluttered with events that never happened. The brain may protect waking reality by allowing most dream content to fade. It keeps the emotional and associative processing, perhaps, while discarding the fictional details. The dream does its work and then dissolves. Dream recall is influenced by several factors including sleep architecture, personality, and motivation. People who wake during or immediately after REM sleep recall dreams more reliably than those who wake from non-REM sleep. People who are more neurotic, in the personality trait sense, report higher rates of dream recall. People who are told that dream recall is important or who are motivated to remember their dreams show improved dream recall. The single most effective technique for improving dream recall is keeping a dream journal, writing down any dream content immediately on waking, even if it seems fragmented or incomplete, before engaging with any other activity. This practice appears to both train the attention to dream content during waking and to strengthen the memory traces of dreams during the brief window between waking and the return to other activities when dream memories are particularly vulnerable to rapid forgetting. The question of whether dream interpretation has psychological utility, whether working with dream content in therapy can produce meaningful psychological change, is distinct from the question of whether Freud's specific interpretive system was valid. Contemporary dream-focused psychotherapy does not necessarily rely on Freudian symbolism, but uses dream content as a projective medium, as material that reflects the dreamer's emotional concerns, relationship patterns, and psychological conflicts in a less defended form than waking self-report. Research on the effectiveness of dream-focused therapy has found that using dreams as content in psychotherapy can facilitate emotional processing, generate insight, and improve outcomes in the treatment of depression, PTSD, and relational difficulties. The mechanism is not the decoding of hidden symbols, but the engagement with emotionally significant material that the dream has made accessible in a form different from the usual self-protective framing of waking self-presentation. The default mode network, a set of brain regions including the medial prefrontal cortex, posterior cingulate cortex, and angular gyrus, is active during waking mind-wandering, self-referential thought, and mental simulation. It is also active during dreaming. The overlap between the neural systems active during waking daydreaming and during dreaming suggests a deep relationship between these two forms of internally generated experience. Both involve the activation of autobiographical memory, mental simulation of social scenarios, and narrative construction. Both are associated with the relative quieting of externally directed task networks. The dreaming brain and the daydreaming brain may be running the same fundamental cognitive processes, spontaneous narrative generation drawing on memory and emotional content, with the primary differences being the depth of perceptual immersion and the degree of metacognitive awareness available to monitor the experience. The experience of time in dreams is not reliably compressed or expanded relative to real time, despite the popular intuition that dreams involve rapid, condensed experience. Studies measuring the time taken to perform specific actions in lucid dreams, where the dreamer can execute a prearranged behavioral sequence and signal its start and completion using eye movements, have found that dreamed actions take approximately the same time as the corresponding waking actions. Dreamed speech takes approximately the same time as waking speech. Dreamed walking at a specific pace proceeds at approximately the rate that waking walking would proceed. The apparent compression of complex narrative experience into a brief period of sleep is a feature of memory encoding and retrieval rather than of the dream experience itself. The dream may be as temporally extended as the subjective experience suggests, but the memory of it is encoded in compressed form and decoded as narrative in a way that makes it feel more compact in retrospect. The social dimension of dreaming, The extraordinary frequency with which other people appear in dreams has been consistently documented across dream content analyses. Other characters appear in the vast majority of dreams. Some estimates suggest over 90% of dreams involve at least one other person. The identity of these characters is predominantly people known to the dreamer, with strangers, composite figures, and famous people also appearing. In waking life, we spend much of our mental time thinking about other people, imagining their perspectives, anticipating their reactions, replaying social interactions, planning future ones. The default mode network activity associated with this social cognition overlaps strongly with the networks active during dreaming. The dreaming brain is a social brain, continuously simulating the social world and the people within it, even in the absence of any actual social contact. One of the most interesting facts about dreaming is that the self inside a dream is usually not the same as the waking self in full. The dream self has a body, a point of view, fears, goals, and reactions, but it does not always have access to the same memory, skepticism, or sense of personal history that waking consciousness has. In a dream, a person may accept a false biography, believe they are late for a job they left years ago, or speak to someone who has died without immediately recognizing that this is impossible. The dream self is assembled for the dream. It carries enough continuity to feel like me, but not always enough continuity to question the situation. This makes dreams scientifically useful because they separate components of selfhood that usually appear fused: body ownership, emotional identity, autobiographical memory, agency, and reality monitoring. The body in dreams is also strange. Most people dream from a first-person perspective, as though they are inside a body moving through a world. But the dream body is not a perfect copy of the physical body. A person may fly without wings, run without fatigue, fall without impact, breathe underwater, or inhabit a body that feels younger, stronger, weaker, or different in ways that are accepted without concern. Phantom limb patients sometimes dream of having the missing limb restored. People with paralysis may dream of walking. People with chronic pain sometimes dream without pain, and sometimes dream with intensified versions of it. These variations show that the body in dreams is generated by the brain's body model, not directly by the physical body lying in bed. The dream body is a simulation built from memory, expectation, sensation, and emotion. Dream perspective can shift in ways waking perspective almost never does. A person may begin a dream seeing through their own eyes, and then suddenly watch themselves from outside, like a camera moving out of the body. They may know what another character is thinking without hearing it spoken. They may experience a scene simultaneously as participant and observer. This instability of perspective is another clue that dreaming is constructed rather than perceived. In waking life, the brain is constrained by sensory input. Vision comes from the eyes, sound from the ears, body position from muscles and joints. In a dream, those constraints are loosened. The brain can generate a viewpoint, change it, and still preserve the feeling that the experience is happening. The emotional intensity of dreams is partly explained by the way dreams compress meaning. A waking event may require a long explanation to make its emotional significance clear. A dream can create the same feeling instantly through a scene that carries many associations at once. A hallway can feel like childhood, judgment, danger, and loss simultaneously. A stranger can feel like someone known. A city can feel like home and exile at the same time. The dream does not need to explain why. It presents the emotional conclusion first, and the narrative adjusts around it. This may be why some dreams are difficult to describe after waking. The words capture the plot, but the plot was never the whole point. The real force was the atmosphere. Dreams often show a peculiar relationship to memory. They rarely replay waking events exactly. except in some trauma-related nightmares. More often, they borrow pieces, a face from one period of life, a building from another, a current worry, a song, a smell, a recent task, a childhood emotional tone. The dream combines these fragments into a new scene that feels coherent while it lasts. This recombination is one reason dreams can seem meaningful without being literal. They reveal what the brain is linking together. A person from the past may appear not because the brain is sending a message about that person, but because the emotional pattern associated with them has become relevant again. The day residue effect describes the tendency for recent experiences to appear in dreams, especially experiences from the previous day or two. But there is also a delayed effect, sometimes called the dream lag effect. Material from about 5 to 7 days earlier can appear in dreams with surprising frequency. This suggests that dream incorporation is not simply a direct replay of the day. The brain may return to an experience after some delay, when it is being integrated with older memories or when its emotional relevance has become clearer. A conversation that seemed ordinary on Monday may appear in a dream the following weekend because the brain has connected it to something larger. Dream timing may therefore reflect stages of memory processing rather than simple chronological order. Night terrors are often confused with nightmares, but they are physiologically different. Nightmares usually occur during our REM sleep and are remembered as frightening dream narratives. Night terrors usually arise from deep non-REM sleep, especially in children, and involve sudden screaming, intense fear, rapid heart rate, sweating, and apparent panic while the person remains difficult to wake and usually remembers little or nothing afterward. The child may sit up, cry out, or appear terrified, but the experience is not usually a remembered dream in the ordinary sense. It is a disorder of arousal. The brain is partly awake and partly locked in deep sleep. This distinction matters because the event looks more psychologically meaningful than it usually is. In many cases, the best response is not interpretation but safety, calm, and allowing the nervous system to settle. Sleepwalking is another non-REM parasomnia that demonstrates how complex behavior can occur without ordinary conscious awareness. A sleepwalker may get out of bed, walk through rooms, open doors, speak, move objects, or perform simple routines while remaining in a state of partial arousal from deep sleep. The eyes may be open, but the person is not awake in the normal sense and usually has little memory of the event. Sleepwalking is more common in children and often decreases with age. It can be triggered by sleep deprivation, fever, stress, alcohol, certain medications, or irregular sleep schedules. Scientifically, sleepwalking shows that wakefulness is not a single switch. Parts of the brain involved in motor behavior can become active while parts involved in awareness, memory, and judgment remain asleep. Narcolepsy offers another window into the boundary between dreaming and waking. People with narcolepsy can enter REM sleep unusually quickly, sometimes within minutes of falling asleep, and may experience vivid, dreamlike hallucinations at sleep onset or waking. They may also experience cataplexy, sudden loss of muscle tone triggered by strong emotion, which resembles REM autonia intruding into waking life. In narcolepsy, elements of REM sleep appear at the wrong time. Dream imagery intrudes into waking transitions, paralysis intrudes into wakefulness, and the boundary between sleep and waking becomes unstable. This instability reveals that REM sleep is not simply a stage that happens neatly after other stages. It is a coordinated biological system, and when that coordination breaks down, pieces of dreaming can appear while consciousness is otherwise awake. REM sleep behavior disorder is important not only because it shows what happens when REM paralysis fails, but because in many cases it can precede neurodegenerative disease by years or decades. People with this disorder act out vivid dreams, often involving defense, pursuit, or attack. They may punch, kick, leap from bed, or shout while still asleep. Research has found that idiopathic REM sleep behavior disorder, meaning it occurs without an obvious medication or other immediate cause, is strongly associated with later development of synucleinopathies such as Parkinson's disease, dementia with Lewy bodies, and multiple system atrophy. This has made the disorder an important early marker in neurology. A failure of the dream protective paralysis system can be an early sign that deeper brainstem networks are changing. Dreams and depression often have distinctive patterns. People with depression may enter REM sleep earlier in the night, spend more time in REM, and report dreams with more negative emotional tone, themes of failure, rejection, loss, or helplessness. This does not mean dreams cause depression, but it suggests that mood disorders alter the architecture and emotional processing of sleep. The dreaming brain is not separate from waking mental health. It reflects the emotional climate in which it operates. Anxiety, grief, trauma, depression, and chronic stress all change what the sleeping mind returns to, how intensely it returns, and whether the dream process feels restorative or exhausting. The relationship between dreams and memory is also visible in the way people dream during periods of intense learning. Students preparing for exams, musicians practicing difficult pieces, athletes training new movements, surgeons learning procedures, gamers playing for long hours, and language learners immersed in a new environment often report dreams that contain fragments of the skill they are acquiring. Sometimes these dreams are frustrating. The person cannot complete the task, cannot remember the word, cannot solve the problem. Sometimes they are strangely productive, replaying the structure of the task in altered form. The sleeping brain appears to continue working with material that has high learning value, especially when that material is emotionally charged or repeated intensely during waking. The dream reports of children differ from those of adults. Very young children tend to report shorter, simpler dreams, often involving animals, static scenes, or simple actions, and only gradually develop the complex narrative dreams typical of adults. This developmental pattern suggests that dreaming depends on the maturation of cognitive systems for narrative, self-representation, memory integration, and social understanding. A child's dream world grows as the child's waking mind grows. The same is true of adolescence, when dreams often become more socially intense, emotionally charged, and identity-focused. The dreaming mind follows the developmental concerns of the waking mind because both are produced by the same growing brain. Aging changes dreams as well. Older adults often report less frequent dream recall, though they still dream. Changes in sleep architecture, less slow-wave sleep, more nighttime awakenings, changes in our EM distribution, alter the conditions under which dreams are encoded and remembered. The content of dreams may also shift with age, reflecting changing concerns, health, memory, lost relationships, family, mortality, unfinished work, and the long integration of a life already lived. The dream life of an older person is not simply a weaker version of the dream life of a younger person. It may be organized around different emotional material and different autobiographical structures. The dream characters who appear in sleep are generated by the dreamer's brain, but they often feel independent. They can surprise the dreamer, refuse instructions, make jokes, reveal information, express anger, or behave with personalities that seem autonomous. This is one reason dreams have been so often interpreted as messages from outside the self. The experience of other minds inside dreams feels real because the waking brain already contains sophisticated models of other people. Every day, humans predict what others may think, feel, want, hide, misunderstand, or say. In dreams, those social models can become embodied as characters. The brain simulates other minds so well that, inside the dream, they feel separate from our own. This social simulation may be one of the most important functions of dreaming. Human life is intensely social, and many of the hardest problems the brain faces are not physical but interpersonal. Trust, rejection, status, love, shame, loyalty, conflict, misunderstanding, forgiveness, and loss. Dreams repeatedly return to these themes because they matter. They allow the mind to simulate conversations that never happened, confrontations that may happen, reunions that cannot happen, and emotional possibilities that waking life does not permit. The dream world is often populated because the human brain is built for other people. There is also a strange humility in dream science. Every person is an expert witness to dreaming and yet an unreliable one. We know dreams from the inside, but mostly after they are over. We describe them with waking language. After waking logic has already begun reshaping them. We remember fragments, impose order, forget contradictions, and sometimes turn a dream into a story only while telling it. This means every dream report is both evidence and reconstruction. The dream itself happened in one state of consciousness. The report is produced in another. Between them lies the fragile bridge of memory. Dreams also demonstrate how the brain builds place. Many dreams occur in locations that feel familiar despite not existing in waking life. A person may repeatedly dream of the same invented city, the same impossible version of a childhood home, the same school that is not any real school, the same coastline, hotel, train station, or apartment building. These recurring dream places are not usually exact memories. They are stable internal constructions assembled from many memories of place. The brain maintains a spatial atmosphere, a feeling of this is that place, even when the architecture changes. This suggests that place memory is not only visual layout. It is emotional tone, expectation, body orientation, and the network of events associated with a kind of environment. The hippocampus is central to this process because it helps build cognitive maps, internal representations of space and context. During waking life, the hippocampus supports navigation through physical environments, but it also supports navigation through imagined and remembered environments. In dreams, the hippocampal system can activate without current sensory input and construct a world that feels spatially real. This may be why dream places have depth, distance, rooms behind doors, streets around corners, and the feeling that something exists beyond what is currently seen. The dreaming brain is not simply flashing images. It is generating a navigable model. Dreams can also carry a strong sense of inevitability. A person may know, without explanation, that a certain event is about to happen, that someone is dangerous, that a place must be avoided, or that a task is urgent. This kind of dream knowledge often appears without evidence inside the dream. It is as if the emotional conclusion has already been decided, and the dream narrative is built to justify it. In waking life, feelings often arise before explanations too, but waking consciousness usually looks for evidence. In dreams, the feeling itself can become fact. Fear makes the figure threatening. Familiarity makes the stranger known. Guilt makes the situation a judgment. Desire makes the impossible available. This helps explain why dreams can continue to affect mood after waking even when their plot is obviously absurd. The waking mind may know the dream did not happen, but the emotional system has still been activated. A dream of betrayal can leave someone uneasy for hours. A dream of reunion can leave warmth or sadness. A dream of failure can make the morning feel heavier. The brain does not always erase the emotional residue just because the narrative is recognized as false. From the nervous system's perspective, the emotion was real. The event was simulated, but the physiological response occurred. Dreams of falling are among the most common sleep experiences, and they sit at the boundary between dream content and bodily sensation. Many falling experiences occur during sleep onset and are associated with hypnic jerks, sudden involuntary muscle contractions as the body transitions into sleep. One hypothesis is that as muscle tone drops and the vestibular system shifts during sleep onset, the brain interprets the bodily change as falling and produces a brief image or sensation to explain it. Another possibility is that falling dreams reflect a general loss of control mapped onto one of the body's most basic danger sensations. Either way, the falling dream shows again that the sleeping brain is constantly interpreting signals from the body and turning them into experience. Dreams of being chased are equally common and usually involve the inability to escape efficiently. The dreamer runs slowly, becomes trapped, cannot scream, cannot find the door, or discovers that ordinary movement no longer works. These failures of action may partly reflect REM autonia. The motor system is inhibited while the brain is simulating movement. The dream builds a story around the mismatch. The mind wants to move, but the body is still. What appears as terror in the dream may be the narrative expression of a real physiological condition. The brain is trying to run inside a body that has been deliberately immobilized for safety. Dreams about losing things, phones, passports, keys, bags, documents, tickets, children, pets, are modern variations on an older anxiety. They are dreams about access, identity, responsibility, and control. A lost phone in a dream is not just an object. It can represent the loss of connection, memory, navigation, money, proof, or help. A lost passport can carry the emotional weight of being unable to cross a boundary or prove who you are. These dreams show how quickly the dreaming brain incorporates modern life. The symbols are not ancient and fixed. They update with culture. A medieval person could not dream of losing a phone, but the emotional structure, losing the object that connects you to safety and social order, is old. Dreams of technology failing are now extremely common. People dream that they cannot type a message, cannot dial a number, cannot unlock a device, cannot send an email, cannot find the right app, or cannot make a camera record. These dreams are especially interesting because text, clocks, numbers, and digital interfaces often behave poorly in dreams. They change when reread, refuse to stabilize, or become impossible to use. This may reflect the difficulty of maintaining precise, symbolic detail in the dream state. The dreaming brain is excellent at atmosphere, faces, movement, and emotion, but less reliable at stable written language and exact sequences. It can create the feeling of a screen without maintaining the logic of the screen. False memories inside dreams add another layer. A dream may begin with the sense that a long history has already occurred, a relationship, a mission, a problem, a rule, a danger. The dreamer may remember things that never happened, not from waking life and not earlier in the dream, but as background knowledge generated instantly by the dream. This shows that memory in dreams is not only retrieval. It can be constructed on demand to support the current scenario. The dream does not need to show the whole story because it can generate the feeling that the story is already known. The way dreams handle fear also reveals something about prediction. In waking life, fear prepares the body for possible danger before the danger is fully confirmed. In dreams, this predictive machinery can operate without external evidence at all. The brain can generate the feeling that something is wrong, and then search its own memory for an image capable of carrying that feeling. A dark hallway appears. A figure stands at the door. A voice is heard in another room. The threat may be created after the fear, not before it. This reversal is difficult to see while dreaming because the completed dream feels as if the scene caused the emotion. But from the standpoint of brain function, The emotion and the scene may be co-created. The same may be true of desire and comfort. A dream of a beautiful landscape, a lost home, a person missed for years, or an impossible moment of safety may be generated because the brain is working with longing, attachment, or the need for repair. The dream gives the emotion a world to inhabit. This is why some dreams feel healing even when nothing very dramatic happens. A deceased relative says a few ordinary words. A childhood room appears in warm light. A person sits beside someone without speaking. The dream is not important because of plot. It is important because of emotional presence. Scientific dream research must therefore be careful not to reduce dreams too far. A dream is neural activation, yes. It is memory processing, yes. It is shaped by neurotransmitters, sleep stages, brain networks, and bodily signals. But it is also a lived experience with texture and meaning for the person who has it. Good science does not need to dismiss that subjective richness. It needs to explain how a physical brain can produce it. The mystery is not whether dreams are produced by the brain. They are. The mystery is how a brain can produce a world that feels, for a few minutes, like the only reality there is. This is what makes dreaming so close to the larger problem of consciousness. Waking life also depends on a model built by the brain. The difference is that waking models are continuously corrected by sensory input, while dream models are generated mostly from within. Dreams reveal the constructive nature of perception because they remove the external world and leave the construction process exposed. The brain does not simply open its eyes onto reality. It builds reality moment by moment. During waking, the world pushes back. During dreaming, memory and emotion do. There is one final practical reason dreams remain compelling. Everyone has them, yet no one can hand one directly to another person. A dream can be described, but not shared in its original form. The listener receives a story. The dreamer lived an atmosphere. This gap between experience and report is exactly the gap that makes consciousness difficult. We can measure the brain, record the eyes, track the stages of sleep, and analyze thousands of dream reports, but the first-person reality of the dream remains private. Every dream is a small demonstration of the distance between a physical process and a lived world. And still, dreams are not locked away entirely. They leave traces. They can change mood, strengthen memory, soften grief, intensify fear, inspire art, reveal worry, and sometimes give a person an image they carry for the rest of their life. A dream that lasted less than a minute can be remembered for decades. Another that lasted an hour can disappear before the eyes fully open. The brain decides, by mechanisms not yet fully understood, which fragments cross the border into waking memory and which dissolve back into the night. This is why the science of dreams is not a small side branch of sleep research. It touches memory, emotion, perception, selfhood, creativity, mental health, development, culture, and the basic question of how the brain creates experience. Dreams are ordinary enough to happen every night and strange enough to remain scientifically unfinished after more than a century of laboratory study. They are both common and mysterious, biological and personal, measurable and private. Few subjects in science sit so exactly on the border between hard data and lived experience. The science of dreams remains genuinely incomplete. Part of the difficulty is methodological. Dreams are private. A scientist can measure brain waves, eye movements, oxygen use, neurotransmitter levels, and body paralysis, but the dream itself must still be reported by the dreamer after waking, or in rare lucid cases signaled from inside the dream. There is no dream camera. There is no direct access to the subjective world. This means dream science is always triangulating. Physiology on one side, behavior on another, verbal report on another, and theory trying to connect them. Recent work in machine learning and neuroimaging has begun to reconstruct rough categories of imagined or perceived images from brain activity. But this is still far from reading dreams in any ordinary sense. At best, current methods can identify broad patterns, whether a person may be experiencing visual content, whether certain brain regions associated with faces or places are active, whether emotional networks are engaged. The full dream, the private meaning, the exact atmosphere, the feeling of being there, remains inaccessible from the outside. That privacy is part of what makes dreams scientifically frustrating and personally powerful. Despite decades of experimental research, a coherent and complete theory of why humans dream, what function or functions dreaming serves that would justify the enormous neural resources it consumes, is not yet available. The memory consolidation, emotional processing, threat rehearsal, creative association, and default mode activation accounts all capture something real about dreaming, but none provides a complete and unified explanation. The hard problem of consciousness applies to dreaming with particular force, explaining why the information processing that occurs during REM sleep is accompanied by vivid subjective experience, why it feels like something to dream, and why that experience has the particular qualitative richness it does, remains as unanswered for dreaming as it is for waking consciousness. The phenomenon of false awakening, dreaming that you have woken up and are going through the motions of a normal morning, only to eventually discover that you are still dreaming, is one of the more philosophically disorienting experiences in the dreamscape. False awakenings are particularly common in people who practice lucid dreaming, perhaps because the increased metacognitive awareness that accompanies lucid dreaming practice also increases the likelihood of dreaming about waking up. They can occur in chains, waking up within a dream only to discover that the waking itself was a dream, and then waking up again, sometimes multiple times before genuinely waking. The experience of false awakening undermines the ordinary certainty about the boundary between dreaming and waking, and it is one of the more vivid demonstrations that the brain's construction of the experience of being awake is itself a construction, not a simple direct perception of reality. The shared dream, two people reporting the same dream, or dreams with overlapping content on the same night, is one of the more extraordinary claims in the popular literature on dreaming and one of the more difficult to evaluate scientifically. Anecdotal reports of shared dreaming are not uncommon, particularly among people in close relationships, and research on the dreams of couples has found correlations in dream emotional tone and thematic content that exceed chance. Whether these correlations reflect genuine experiential overlap, both people somehow accessing the same dream content, or shared concerns, shared daytime experiences, and shared emotional states that independently generate similar dream material, is not established. The most parsimonious interpretation is that close couples, sharing the same daily experiences and emotional concerns, dream about similar things because they have similar psychological material to dream about. The more exotic interpretation requires mechanisms not currently supported by any neuroscientific model. The question of the moral status of dreams, whether actions performed in dreams carry moral weight, was taken seriously by philosophers and theologians for centuries and continues to be debated. If you harm someone in a dream, are you morally responsible? The dominant philosophical position has been that dream actions do not carry the same moral weight as waking actions because they are not fully voluntary. The dreamer is not in full possession of their rational faculties, and the harm is not real. But experimental research has found that people feel varying degrees of guilt, pride, and other moral emotions in response to their dream behavior, and that these emotions can persist into waking. The dreaming self is not entirely continuous with the waking self. It does things the waking self would not do, believes things the waking self knows are false, but neither is it entirely discontinuous. The moral psychology of dreaming sits at the intersection of philosophy of mind, ethics, and empirical psychology in ways that have not been fully resolved. The relationship between dreaming and artistic creation has been documented throughout human history. Samuel Taylor Coleridge claimed that Kubla Khan came to him complete in a dream, though he was unable to complete transcribing it after being interrupted. Mary Shelley's Frankenstein grew from a waking vision that occurred in a hypnagogic state after a conversation about the possibility of reanimating dead tissue. Robert Louis Stevenson described the basic plot of The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde as arriving in a dream. The Surrealist movement in art deliberately sought to access and represent the visual and narrative qualities of dreaming, with Salvador Dali developing a specific technique, the paranoia critical method, that attempted to induce a dreamlike state of visual hallucination while maintaining enough waking awareness to record and develop the imagery. The history of art contains a continuous thread of artists attempting to bring the qualities of dreaming, the freedom from logical constraint, the unexpected juxtapositions, the emotional intensity, into waking creative work. The brain during dreaming is capable of generating novel experiences that have no direct waking analog. People dream of flying, of breathing underwater, of seeing their own body from outside, of visiting places that do not exist with a sense of familiarity. The dreaming brain is not merely replaying or recombining waking experience. It is generating genuinely new configurations of experience that extend beyond what the waking perceptual system has encountered. This generative capacity, the ability to construct novel, coherent, emotionally compelling experiences from the inside, is one of the most striking capabilities of the sleeping brain, and it suggests that the dreaming mind has access to a generative model of reality that is richer and more flexible than the model constrained by sensory input during waking. The default mode network's role in dreaming has been clarified by neuroimaging studies comparing brain activity during dreams reported by subjects awakened from REM sleep with activity during non-dreaming periods. Regions of the default mode network, the medial prefrontal cortex, the posterior cingulate cortex, the lateral temporal cortex, and the hippocampal complex, show elevated activity during reported dreaming compared to periods of reported mental blankness. These are the same regions associated with narrative construction, autobiographical memory, mental simulation, and self-referential thought during waking. The neural overlap between dreaming and waking mind wandering suggests that the same narrative and social simulation machinery of the waking brain is repurposed and amplified during sleep, freed from the constraint of sensory input to generate its own autonomous scenarios. The dreaming brain is the storytelling brain, operating without external material, finding its own. The experience of meeting deceased loved ones in dreams is one of the most commonly reported and most emotionally significant dream experiences. Surveys across cultures consistently find that a significant proportion of people who have lost close family members or friends report dreams in which the deceased appears, sometimes as they were in life, sometimes younger or healthier, sometimes with a quality of presence that the dreamer describes as more vivid or more real than ordinary dreaming. These visitation dreams, as they are sometimes called, are associated with strong positive emotions in many cases, a sense of reunion, of comfort, of communication, though they can also be distressing when the deceased appears in pain or danger. Research on grief and bereavement has found that visitation dreams are very common among the bereaved and that they are often experienced as comforting and meaningful, contributing to the mourning process in a way that dreamers themselves describe as helpful. The continuity hypothesis would suggest these dreams reflect the dreamer's ongoing emotional relationship with the lost person. The threat simulation and emotional processing hypotheses would suggest they involve the processing of grief. Whatever their origin, the experience of meeting the dead in dreams is one of the most universal and most deeply felt of all dream experiences. The incubation of dreams, deliberately seeking to dream about a specific topic or to receive guidance through a dream, has been practiced since antiquity. Beyond the ancient Greek and Egyptian temple incubation traditions, many indigenous cultures have formal practices for directing dream content towards specific goals, seeking guidance for decisions, receiving healing, acquiring spiritual power, or contacting ancestors. Experimental research has found that directing intention toward a specific topic before sleep can increase the probability of dreaming about that topic. Subjects asked to work on an unsolved problem before sleep and to think about it while falling asleep showed elevated rates of dreaming about the problem and, in some cases, waking with potential solutions. The technique of holding a problem in mind at sleep onset, in the hypnagogic state where the dreaming mind is beginning to generate its associations, is consistent with reports from creative individuals who deliberately exploit this state for generative thinking. The practice of yoga nidra, a systematic guided relaxation practice that induces a state of consciousness at the boundary between waking and sleep, produces a state of reduced sensory awareness and heightened internal imagery similar to the hypnagogic state. Practitioners describe the experience as a form of conscious sleep in which the body is deeply relaxed and the ordinary waking thought processes are suspended while awareness is maintained. The state is associated with theta band brain oscillations, the same oscillations associated with the hypnagogic transition and with the early stages of sleep onset, and with vivid internal imagery and a quality of awareness described as detached or witnessing. Whether yoga nidra represents a distinct state of consciousness or a variant of the hypnagogic state is a matter of definitional and empirical debate, but its effects on the quality of sleep, the vividness of subsequent dreaming, and the integration of waking and sleeping consciousness have generated significant research interest. The neuroscience of the transition from waking to dreaming involves a cascade of neurochemical and neural changes that unfold over the course of approximately 90 minutes from sleep onset. As the person begins to fall asleep, norepinephrine levels begin to fall, reducing the arousal system's suppression of the default mode network. The default mode network becomes more active as the external task-related networks become less active and spontaneous internal imagery begins to appear, the hypnagogic hallucinations of sleep onset. With deeper non-REM sleep, consciousness fragments further and memory encoding declines dramatically. With the onset of REM sleep, acetylcholine surges, activating the hippocampus and cortex. The thalamocortical gating that during waking directs sensory information from the thalamus to the cortex is partially reversed during REM sleep, with the cortex now receiving signals generated internally rather than externally. The result is a brain that is generating its own sensory experience from memory and emotional associations. A brain that has turned inward, closed the windows on the outside world, and begun to tell itself stories. The reciprocal interaction model of Hobson and McCarley, extended and revised over subsequent decades, describes the neurochemical dynamics driving the cycling between non-REM and REM sleep as reflecting the oscillating balance between aminergic neurons, which are active during waking and suppress REM, and cholinergic neurons, which drive REM sleep when aminergic tone falls. This oscillation is driven by inhibitory connections between the two systems. When aminergic activity is high, it suppresses cholinergic activity, maintaining non-REM sleep. As aminergic activity gradually declines during sleep, cholinergic activity is released from inhibition, producing the transition to REM. During REM, cholinergic activity inhibits the aminergic neurons, and eventually the aminergic neurons escape inhibition through intrinsic mechanisms, and the cycle begins again. This basic model has been extended and complicated by the discovery of additional sleep regulatory systems, including the orexin system and the melanocortin system. But the core reciprocal interaction between aminergic and cholinergic systems remains central to the neurobiological model of the REM cycle. The cultural function of dreaming extends beyond individual psychology into the social fabric of communities. In many traditional societies, dreams are a medium for accessing shared cultural and spiritual reality, not merely private mental events, but genuine experiences of contact with spirits, ancestors, or the sacred. The Haudenosaunee, Iroquois, belief that dreams reveal the unfulfilled wishes of the soul, and that these wishes must be fulfilled to maintain health, created a social institution in which the community was obligated to help fulfill the dream requests of individuals. This is not mere superstition, but a social institution that functioned to redistribute resources, resolve conflicts, and maintain psychological health within the community, using the medium of dreams as a legitimate vehicle for expressing and meeting needs that might otherwise go unmet. The social function of dreaming in traditional cultures, as a mechanism for maintaining community cohesion, processing collective trauma, and transmitting cultural knowledge, represents an aspect of dream life largely absent from the individualistic, privacy-oriented dream culture of modern Western societies. The question of whether animals other than mammals dream remains open. REM sleep has been documented in birds. Some birds show EEG patterns during sleep that resemble mammalian REM, and the evolutionary implication is that some form of dreamlike processing may have evolved in the common ancestor of birds and mammals, or independently in both lineages. In birds, the REM periods are much shorter than in mammals, seconds rather than minutes, which may be an adaptation to the vulnerability of a sleeping bird to predation. In reptiles, some studies have found patterns of neural activity during sleep that may be analogous to mammalian REM, though this is contested. In fish and invertebrates, evidence for sleep is present, but whether it involves anything analogous to REM dreaming is not established. The evolutionary origin of dreaming. When in evolutionary history the dreaming state first appeared and what it was associated with is not known. The relationship between the amount of REM sleep and the developmental stage of an organism provides one of the most interesting evolutionary clues about the function of dreaming. Human newborns spend approximately 50% of their total sleep time in REM sleep. Premature infants spend even more. The proportion of sleep time in REM declines steadily through childhood and adolescence, reaching approximately 20 to 25% in adults. The same pattern, high REM in infancy, declining with age, is seen across all mammalian species. The proportion of sleep time in REM is highest in the most altricial species, those born most dependent and developmentally immature, and lowest in the most precocial species, those born most mature and independent. This relationship strongly suggests that our REM sleep and the dreaming process play an important role in early brain development, that the dreaming brain is part of the developmental machinery that builds and wires the complex neural systems of the mature brain. The temporal structure of the night's dreaming is not random, but organized. Research using the experience sampling method, waking subjects at random intervals during sleep and asking about their mental activity, has found that dream reports become progressively more bizarre, emotionally intense, and narrative in quality as the night progresses. Early night mental activity is often indistinguishable from ordinary waking thought. Midnight activity begins to show dreamlike qualities, loosening of logical constraints, unexpected juxtapositions, increasing perceptual vividness. Late-night activity is the most fully dreamlike, maximally strange, maximally vivid, maximally emotional, and maximally narrative. This progression reflects the changing neurochemical environment of the sleeping brain over the course of the night, as the monoaminergic systems that support waking cognition are progressively withdrawn and the cholinergic systems that support dreaming are progressively engaged. The science of dreams has barely begun. The tools available for studying the sleeping brain, functional MRI, EEG, polysomnography, carefully designed behavioral experiments, have already revealed enormous amounts about the neural mechanisms of sleep and dreaming, but the deepest questions remain stubbornly open. Why does the brain generate a subjective experience at all during sleep? What specific function does the vivid, narrative, emotionally rich phenomenology of dreaming serve, as opposed to the information processing that might occur without any inner life? Is dreaming a single phenomenon or a family of related but distinct processes? What is the relationship between dreaming and the waking creative and emotional life? How much of what we are, the accumulated residue of a lifetime's dreaming, exists beyond the reach of waking memory? The 6 years of dreaming that the average person experiences over a lifetime are largely inaccessible. They have shaped the person who woke from them in ways that are real but not traceable. They have processed fears and desires and relationships and memories that were never brought to waking attention. They have generated insights that evaporated on waking and connections that persisted invisibly in the restructured neural networks of the consolidated memory system. The life of the dreaming self, the self that exists only in the interior of sleep, is a life that is lived but not fully remembered, a life that runs parallel to the waking life and shapes it in continuous, quiet, unremarked ways. What can be said with confidence is this: the dreaming mind is not idle. It is doing something that involves the emotional concerns of the dreamer, the memories of the preceding day and the more distant past, the social relationships that matter most, the anxieties that are hardest to process in waking, the creative associations that waking logic resists. It is doing this in a neurochemical environment unlike any other state of consciousness, in a body that is paralyzed to prevent it from acting out what it experiences, with sensory systems generating their own elaborate and convincing world from within. What can be said with confidence is this: the dreaming mind is not idle. It is doing something. It is working with memory, emotion, fear, desire, grief, prediction, identity, and imagination in a state unlike ordinary waking consciousness. It is building worlds from fragments. It is testing feelings without moving the body. It is returning to old material and placing it beside new experience. It is allowing the brain to process what the day could not finish. Dreams are not always meaningful in a simple, symbolic way. They are not messages that can be translated by a universal dictionary, but they are not meaningless either. They are the activity of a living brain, a brain shaped by personal history, by biology, by culture, by stress, by love, by fear, by memory, and by the deep architecture of sleep itself. Every night, the body becomes still, the room remains quiet, and the mind begins constructing a private reality no one else can enter directly. Most of it will be forgotten. Some of it will stay, and some small part of it may change the way waking life feels when morning comes. Sleep well. Good night.